When I was about 13 years old, bowling was a regular activity for me and my group of close friends, including Jacob, Josh, and Mikey. Every weekend, we gathered at a bowling alley near our house. This bowling alley was not only close, but also very cheap, suitable for kids who didn't have much money like us. That night, as usual, we went to the bowling alley around 8 p.m., when the alley was very crowded. On previous visits, we had noticed an older man many times, often sitting alone on the adult side of the alley where alcohol was served. What was strange was that he always walked around the alley, quietly observing people playing, then went back to playing by himself. We nicknamed him Creeper Bob. That evening, after arriving at the bowling alley, we noticed that there was an empty lane right next to us. And to our surprise, Creeper Bob himself came and sat right next to us. He started chatting with us, mostly about how to bowl, but every word he said only made us feel uncomfortable and uneasy. At one point, he even touched me, trying to give me instructions on how to throw the ball, even though I didn't ask for it. He then confessed that he had been watching us from afar and decided to come over today to introduce himself. This sent a chill down our spines. We felt so uncomfortable that we decided to leave the bowling alley earlier than planned and went to a nearby pizza place to eat. When we left the pizza place, Jacob and Mikey went in a different direction, leaving Josh and I alone to walk home. As we passed a deserted road, suddenly an old SUV, which appeared to be a Ford Explorer, began to follow us. Feeling uneasy, we started to speed up. The car suddenly stopped beside us, and the window slowly rolled down. Just as we had expected, it was Creeper Bob. He offered us a ride home, but we immediately refused. Realizing that he couldn't convince us, he suddenly parked the car on the side of the road and got out. Josh and I decided to run straight home without looking back. When we reached the intersection, we said goodbye to each other and I continued running home. When I got home, I ran around to the back to get the spare key hidden in the garage. But as I opened the back door, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. Before I could turn around, a large hand covered my mouth and another arm wrapped around my neck, trying to pull me into the house. I struggled and shouted for my dad. In the chaos, I could feel the person hesitate. Finally, he let go of me and ran into the darkness. I immediately ran up the stairs and shouted for my dad. After hearing what I had said, my dad checked the entire backyard but found no trace. The next morning, we reported the incident to the police, but unfortunately, the bowling alley refused to provide the security footage. Although there was no concrete evidence, I was convinced that the intruder was Creeper Bob, who had been following and haunting us all this time. When I was a teenager, I had a group of friends who were what people called the punks. We loved to cause trouble, break rules, and explore places where we didn't belong. I grew up in a suburb in northern New Jersey where we were just spoiled kids with nothing better to do. Looking back, the way we spent our time was silly, but there was nothing we could do about it now. One of the weird things we enjoyed doing late at night was exploring. Usually we went into abandoned buildings, but not always. In fact, we were once banned from the middle school after climbing through an open window, but that's a story for another time. That night, we planned a more daring mission. There were 5 of us: me, Chip, Jason, Rowan, and Anish. Rowan was notorious for job hopping, which became the butt of jokes around the group. He quit jobs as quickly as he got them, usually for stupid reasons. Rowan had just taken a job as a clerk at a bowling alley in a town not far away. I'm sure you can guess what happened. Rowan had been given the keys to the bowling alley the night before. Anish was a master of persuasion, and he had somehow convinced Rowan to let us go explore the bowling alley at 3 a.m. I swear Anish could convince someone to donate their kidney. He was that persistent. I hadn't heard from Anish in a while, and I heard he was probably in jail right now. The 5 of us agreed to have a few drinks before we left. We all drank quite a bit, except for Jason, who refused to go anywhere unless he was driving. Jason's dad had a nice BMW, and Jason loved being able to decide when our night out was over. After getting a little tipsy, Jason drove the 5 of us to the venue. I was the one who drank the most in the group, which isn't something to be proud of, but that's who I was. So I didn't take dangerous or risky situations as seriously as I should have. Rowan opened the door, and the 5 of us snuck in. Chip was the most cautious, always reminding us to be careful with his humorous tone. Rowan told us we couldn't go bowling right now, which didn't go down well with the rest of the group. So I came up with a silly idea: slide down the bowling lanes like a water pipe. Since we were drunk, it was actually fun. The five of us quickly got tired and decided to explore the back area. Rowan led us into the staff-only area, and he led us into a storage room. We started rummaging around, turning things upside down, acting like idiots. We figured Rowan would definitely get fired, so we didn't care much about breaking anything. As we started to get bored, we heard a loud noise from downstairs. The five of us stopped and looked at each other. Jason, the only one who was sober, asked if there was a basement. Rowan was as shocked as we were, saying he had never heard of one. Anish was excited, eager to continue exploring. Chip was worried, saying we might get Rowan fired. As we were quietly debating whether to search the basement, Jason spotted a small rug in the corner of the room, and underneath it was a hatch. The atmosphere in the room changed immediately, becoming much more tense. Although we had found the entrance to the basement, the noise we had heard was still unexplained. I guess none of us really wanted to go down there, but Jason decided to open the hatch and shine his phone light into the darkness. Without another word, he started to climb down. Although I was a little nervous, the confidence from the alcohol pushed me to follow Jason. Anish followed, and Rowan rounded out the group. Only Chip refused to go down. The four of us turned on our phone flashlights and began to explore the hidden basement. It was dusty and filled to the ceiling with cardboard boxes. It seemed like there was nothing but cardboard boxes until Anish noticed a door in the corner. Jason walked over and was about to open the door when a loud banging noise came from the other side of the door. We were all frozen, terrified. No one said a word, but in the back of our minds, we were all thinking about the possibility of an animal or something else behind the door. But the noise was too loud to be an animal. Jason said nothing, slowly opening the door. Inside was another storage room, but what shocked us was a human figure sitting in the corner, knees drawn up, with its back to us. We stood there, frozen in fear. After a long minute, the figure began banging its head against the wall, making the noise we had heard before. We didn't say anything, just started backing away slowly. Suddenly, Rowan accidentally bumped into a pile of furniture, making a loud noise and cursing under his breath. Immediately, the figure screamed, and we ran for our lives. Jason and I were the first two to go up the stairs. Anish followed closely behind. Chip stood at the top looking down, worried about what was happening. As Anish climbed up the stairs, we heard Rowan yell, "Get off me!" I turned around to see Chip throwing a metal bar down. There was a scream, and Rowan immediately ran up the stairs. Chip grabbed Rowan's hand and pulled him up. We ran out of the bowling alley, and Rowan locked the door with shaking hands. Jason drove us home in silence. On the way back, Rowan told us what happened after we ran away. It turned out that the person in the basement had jumped on Rowan's back, trying to attack him. Chip lunged down and hit the guy with the metal bar, knocking him down. Rowan said he only saw the guy's face for a split second, a dirty, homeless-looking guy with messy hair. Rowan quit the next day without explaining anything to his boss. To this day, we still don't understand how the guy got into the basement. Maybe there was another entrance we missed, or maybe Rowan's boss knew something about the whole thing. After that experience, I never wanted to go bowling again.